Your old family home is really run down. It didn't take long to demolish. It's cleared out now and ready for a new house to be built." Haley blurted out over the phone that she had destroyed my beloved family home. Despite my protests, she went ahead and did it anyway. I was shocked as I looked at the pictures sent to me. My name is Grace. I'm 30 years old. I married Liam 2 years ago. Liam has been on a work assignment in a different region for about a year. I couldn't move with him due to my job, so with a heavy heart, I let Liam go alone. We were still in our honeymoon phase, missing each other terribly, but his assignment was soon to end. "Just a little longer. When you're back, I'll make your favorite pulled pork every day. I'll give you a shoulder rub every day in return." We had such conversations daily on WhatsApp or over the phone. But my buoyant mood was dampened by frequent calls from my mother-in-law, Haley. Haley really disliked me. She was the kind of horrible mother-in-law who started harassing me even before we were married. My father-in-law passed away when Liam was a student, and Haley lived alone. She insisted on living with us after our marriage, but having been treated badly by Haley from the first meeting, I was strongly opposed, and Liam, seeing her relentless harassment, firmly refused to live with her. But Haley wouldn't accept it, often showing up at our place unannounced, saying things like, "You're really slacking on the housework with Liam not around, aren't you? There's dust everywhere. I offered to live with you because you obviously can't handle these things, but with this sloppiness, it's hopeless. Your job isn't anything significant, right? You're just a useless woman, incapable of anything. You should live with me. I feel so sorry for Liam." She'd hurl such abuses and leave. Tired of this daily ordeal, one day, Haley called. "Hey, your family home is empty, right? What are you planning to do with it? Surely you're not thinking of selling it?" My parents had died in a car accident last year, leaving the house unoccupied, as Haley said. "No, we're not selling it. Liam and I plan to live there. He's coming back soon, and we're thinking of moving in once things settle." The house was in the suburbs, well-connected and surrounded by just enough nature, making it a safe environment for raising children in the future. "Planning to live in a house? Just the two of you? How cold-hearted, leaving me, a pensioner, alone. I won't allow it. That's a sizable piece of land, isn't it? I've been there before. It's too luxurious for just you two. I'll be living there too, so count me in." As expected, the conversation turned in that direction. Haley never gave up on the idea of living together, and I sighed. Liam and I were talking about buying a house anyway, since our apartment will be too small if we have kids. It's just a coincidence that my family home was available. It's not a big house, and there's no room to spare for you, Haley. And who says we'll only have one child? Liam and I want as many as we can. I had no intention of saying yes, no matter what she said. "You always find excuses to leave me out, but Liam wants to live with me. He's always loved me. Right now, he's just under your influence, but deep down, he prefers me." That was not the case at all. Liam always kept his distance from Haley, who was always bossy towards others, especially since she started harassing me. But self-centered Haley, oblivious to Liam's feelings, blurted out an outrageous suggestion. "If the problem is that there aren't enough rooms, why not just rebuild the house? How old is your family home again? It was built by your grandfather, right? It might be quite old. Perfect. We'll build a big house so that I can live there too, no matter how many children you have. This solves everything. If the issue is just the house being too small, then building a larger one is the simple solution. Why didn't I think of this before?" Haley sounded pleased with herself, thinking it was a great idea. Though Liam and I wanted a spacious home, we knew Haley would want to move in if it were bigger, so we had planned to live in my current family home for the time being. That house, indeed old, was a fine one, built by my grandfather. It had a charming traditional feel that both Liam and I loved. The thought of demolishing it for Haley's sake was absolutely unacceptable. "I'm not considering rebuilding. I'm sorry. We can't agree to your suggestion, so please give it up." I tried to be as clear as possible to prevent Haley from getting her hopes up, but it seemed to fall on deaf ears. "I'm not listening to your opinion. I'll go check it out myself, so give me the address. It's about an hour away by bus, right?" Haley had harassed me even before we were married, so my parents were wary of her. She had never been invited to our family home, nor did she know its location. Now more than ever, I couldn't tell her. I can't give you the address. We will live there as it is, and we cannot live with you. No matter how much she berated me, I was determined to prevent any cohabitation or rebuilding, and I made my stance clear. Haley seemed to grow frustrated, reverting to her usual habit of clicking her tongue. You really lack charm, getting all high and mighty just because I'm being calm. I don't need your help to find the address. Trying to stay calm, I replied, even asking Liam is pointless. Things won't go as you wish, Haley. I tried to make her give up, but she continued. It's not about that. Liam is probably just following your orders, so I'm not counting on him. I'll ask a professional. I found one on the internet the other day, a real investigative professional. They'll find out everything, no matter how much you try to hide. I was shocked at Haley's words. Are you planning to hire a detective? I can't believe you're going this far just to live together. As I was at a loss for words, once the location is identified, the rest is easy. Stop arguing and just give up now. Bye now. Haley laughed triumphantly and hung up. I stood there, stunned. A professional would easily find out the address. Haley always had surprising initiative in these matters. The next day, I went to work feeling anxious. In the evening, on my way home, I noticed footsteps following my pace. Thinking it couldn't be, I turned around and saw a man in a cap hiding behind a telephone pole. I gasped. Frightened, I started to run, and the man ran after me. I stopped abruptly and turned around again, and this time our eyes met. We faced each other for a few seconds in silence. Then the man spoke first. Well, it doesn't matter. You probably know who I am. Hired by Haley, right? The man easily admitted he was from a detective agency. Haley said she was going to find out my family's home address, but did you... Has it been discovered already? I tentatively asked the man. Of course. I'm a professional among professionals. It didn't even take me an hour. I was just about to report back to Haley, but I made a little detour to see how you were doing. I interrupted him. Please don't report it. If this continues, Haley will demolish my family home. It's a very important place to me. Please, I'm begging you. The man listened to me, crossed his arms, and seemed to think for a bit. I see. I was wondering why, even though I asked many times, the purpose of the investigation wasn't disclosed. This is the first time I'm hearing about this situation. He appeared a bit sympathetic, so I immediately seized the opportunity. Please, I'm begging you, just as I'm saying. I pleaded desperately. If this man doesn't inform Haley, things won't go her way. Once Liam returns from his assignment, we can devise a plan together. With that clinging hope, I continued to beg, but the man's response was ruthless. I can't do that. I'm employed by her, and fulfilling the objective is my mission. Your circumstances don't concern my job. I just follow my own principles. With that, he turned his back to me and started walking away. No, wait a minute. Without turning back at my call, the man left. I was in despair and called Liam that night to explain everything. Liam, there are just 2 more weeks until you return. I'm sure your mother is trying to do something drastic in anticipation of that. I'll also contact her and tell her not to do anything strange. Both of us knew too well that Haley wouldn't stop just because Liam said something. I'll go to our family home every day to watch if Haley tries anything. Whether I was there or not, it probably wouldn't matter to the forceful Haley, but that was all we could do. Since then, I've been stopping by our family home after work, checking for any signs of trouble. I have a feeling something might happen this week. I'll go to the family home early in the morning and keep watch while cleaning inside to see if Haley shows up. I contacted Liam with a bad feeling and spent the weekend at the family home from early morning. A week had passed since Haley found out the address. It was evident that she would take some kind of action. I was determined to fend off Haley, but nothing happened in the morning or even after lunch. There was no sign of her. And finally, it was getting towards evening. It doesn't seem like anything will happen today. I'll come again tomorrow morning, I muttered to myself, planning to wait a few more hours and then head home if nothing happened. Just then, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Haley. Hello, I just finished. I feel so refreshed. Confused by Haley's cheerful voice, What have you finished? I asked back. Oh, you don't understand? You're really slow. I've demolished your family home. It's all cleared out now. Very refreshing. I'm going to start working on the new house right away. Oh, and leave the design to me." My mind was full of question marks. I was right there, in my family home. Of course, the house was intact, and I was inside. What do you mean? Thinking it was a bad joke, I looked out the window, but there was no sign of Haley. "Where are you, Haley? I'm at the family home." Haley laughed loudly, ignoring my confusion. "What are you talking about? Stop playing dumb. Your family home is gone, without a trace. It's impossible for you to be inside. No matter how much you bluff, the house won't come back." I was finally beginning to grasp the situation, but it was an unbelievable fact. I hesitantly voiced my fear. "Could it be? You demolished the wrong house? My family home is still standing. Whose house did you destroy? It definitely wasn't mine." The laughter in Haley's voice stopped, followed by a long silence. No. You're kidding, right? I made a mistake? That's ridiculous. That man assured me this was your family home and sent me the address." Haley recited the address given by the man and even sent a picture. But it was a completely different place I had never seen. "Unfortunately, it seems you were misled. Haley, you've demolished someone else's house." Realization hit me. Why had the man who insisted on completing his job reported a wrong address? But at least I was safe. "What should I do? I destroyed someone's house because of that man." Haley, now in a panic, seemed too troublesome to deal with any further, but to understand the situation, I drove to the scene. Arriving, I saw Haley confronting what seemed to be the house owner, engaged in a heated argument. The owner, understandably furious, looked ready to explode. If I returned home to find it demolished, I would have fainted. But the owner, resembling a mafia boss, glared down at Haley with crossed arms and an intimidating voice. "I'm not to blame. It's that man's fault. Sue him, not me." Haley, dripping with cold sweat from fear, was shouting. I was observing from a distance when suddenly someone tapped my shoulder. Turning around, I couldn't believe it. It was the man who lied to Haley. "Ah, you're from the detective agency." The man approached Haley and asked, "Am I the bad guy you're talking about?" You! Haley yelled, her hair disheveled in anger. "Damn it! How dare you lie to me, you con artist! Give me back my money! Isn't this a breach of contract? I'll sue you! You're going to pay for rebuilding this house too!" Haley lunged at the man, but the homeowner restrained her. The man, calm and collected, unlike Haley, said, "Aren't you mistaken? I've already annulled our contract and returned the fee promptly. Hence, I'm under no obligation to tell you the truth. And as for this house's demolition, it was under your instructions, not mine." Turning to the homeowner, the man continued, "Will you take this lady away? Even if she's asked to pay for the house rebuildings and damages, she likely doesn't have the means. She'll have to work hard to make the payments." The homeowner nodded deeply and signaled to his young followers to take Haley to the car. "Wait! Stop! Where are you taking me? It was just a mistake about the house. Please forgive me. I didn't mean any harm. Say something, will you?" Haley desperately sought my help, but I was too overwhelmed by the rapid turn of events and could only stare at the man, speechless. "There's no need to say anything. She tried to set you up. Let her make amends for her cruelty towards you in her future life. Being focused on labor, she won't have the leisure to demean or use someone again." The man, looking entirely different from when we first met, gazed at me intently. "Ah, right. I haven't introduced myself. Sorry for the late greeting. My name is Noah. Don't you remember?" With a kind smile, he added, "Noah, that's what you used to call me, and we played a lot. My parents were always working late, and you looked after me, left alone at night. You took care of me like a brother, helped with homework, and even treated me to meals. Thanks to you, I never felt lonely. I really appreciate it." I had an epiphany all of a sudden. The person in front of me was, indeed, Noah. I moved away to the countryside without ever expressing my gratitude for that time. I've been searching for you ever since. The reason I worked at a detective agency as an adult was because of that. I was just in time to protect your family home. The owner of the house Haley destroyed is someone I had previously helped on a job. They're from the so-called underworld. but they shouldn't rough up ordinary people, so please don't worry. However, Haley will have to face the consequences of her actions." I barely managed to comprehend Noah's story. "Thank you, Noah," was all I could muster. "It's me who should be thanking you. Thank you, Grace." With those words, Noah left. Afterwards, Haley had to work like a rag from dawn to dusk for the mafia landlord, rebuilding the house and paying for damages. Having always thought about exploiting others, insulting and attacking them, Haley was probably working legitimately for the first time in her life. It might sound harsh, but the debt she accumulated was too great. Paying it off for a lifetime was only natural. That night when I called Liam and explained everything, "Noah must really have cherished you, Grace, to remember a favor from over 20 years ago. But knowing you, I'm not surprised you did something like that. In fact, I realize you've always been kind to others. That's my Grace for you," Liam said, sounding proud. I had to admit I had completely forgotten about Noah until today. For me, playing with Noah was just something natural, but for Noah, those moments had become priceless memories. Knowing this warmed my heart. Since then, Noah's been keeping in touch with us, occasionally sending messages. Excitingly, Noah is getting married soon. With those beautiful eyes of his, he must have found a wonderful woman. Feeling joy for someone else's happiness as if it were my own is truly a blessing. Liam and I jumped for joy, sharing our happiness. Surely, Noah will be delighted about the new life growing inside me. Just the thought of it makes my heart leap with joy.
"We've prepared a room for you and Mom as well," they said. The room we were shown was about 3 square meters. The only space my husband and I had to live in was this tiny room. They remodeled without asking and left us with only this small space? This is just absurd, no matter how you look at it. My husband and I objected, but our son wouldn't listen. Worse yet, "If you don't like it, then leave," his wife went as far as to say. Don't joke with us. How much more do they intend to mock us? If that's their attitude, we have our own plans too. And so my husband and I decided to take revenge in a certain way. My name is Haley, 57 years old. I retired early from the company I worked at 2 years ago and have since been living as a housewife. Currently, there are 2 people living with me, my husband Jackson and our eldest son Lucas. Our second son David works for a company with transfers and lives far away, returning only during major holidays. While I do feel lonely, Lucas living with us helps ease that feeling. However, there's one complicated reason. Lucas, who lives with us, is not our biological son. He is the son of my sister and her husband. They once went on a road trip and were involved in a fatal car accident. Lucas, who was sitting in the back seat, was the only survivor. At the time, he was about to start elementary school. I remember my sister happily talking about the backpack she had just bought for Lucas. Lucas had no other relatives, and we decided to take him in after discussing it with Jackson. At that time, we didn't have children of our own and were living comfortably. When we took in Lucas, Jackson kindly told him, "From today, we're your parents. You can rely on us any time." "You mean you're my mom and dad?" "Yes, that's right. We'll take full responsibility as your parents no matter what, so don't worry about anything." "Okay, thank you, Uncle and Aunt." Back then, Lucas still referred to us as Uncle, Aunt, he said. But by the time he reached middle school, Dad, Mom, he started calling us. During those years, our second son, David, was born, and we became a family of 4. Though David is the only one away now, it doesn't change the fact that we're a family of 4. Blood relations don't matter. Having Lucas with us makes every day a joy for both Jackson and me. One day, Lucas suddenly said, "I want to introduce someone to you," and brought a woman home. "Mom, Dad, this is Natalie, my fiancé." "Fiancé? Wait a minute, Lucas. You didn't tell me anything about this." "I kept it a secret for a while, but I'm thinking about marrying her soon." "So sudden. What do you think, Mom?" "Well, yes, but Lucas is grown up, and if he's serious, I guess it's fine." Thanks, Mom. I'll try my best with Natalie to become a couple like you and Dad. Lucas said this, exchanging a smile with his fiancée Natalie. It was the first time I saw him looking so happy, and it made me feel happy too. That date ended with just an introduction, and we planned to discuss the wedding details later. But a few days later, I was at a department store and decided to grab lunch. When waiting for the food I ordered, I heard a young woman shouting from a table at the back, "Hey, how long are you going to make me wait? The food is mediocre, and it takes forever just to bring the desserts. Unbelievable. Listen, we are customers, you know. If we've waited this long and the food is bad, I expect a refund." The unreasonable complaints caught the attention of everyone in the restaurant, including me. Then, I couldn't believe my eyes. Is that Natalie? Yes. The complainer was Lucas's fiancée, who visited us a few days ago. Gone was the pleasant atmosphere from her visit. She seemed like a completely different person. Looks very similar, but could it be someone else? Natalie wouldn't say such things, or would she? But she looked and sounded exactly the same. I didn't want to believe that my son's chosen woman could be like this, and doubt clouded my mind. However, the doubt was dispelled when a friend sitting with her called her Natalie. At that moment, I was certain she was Lucas's fiancée. That night, when Jackson came home from work, I explained everything to him. So, it was Natalie. She was so unreasonable. I felt sorry for the staff. Are you sure it wasn't a mistake? She seemed like a nice, modest girl when Lucas brought her over. I thought it was someone else too, but her friend called her Natalie, and they looked and sounded exactly alike. It can't be a mistake. But what can we do? Lucas has already decided to get married. Yeah, but confronted with this sudden issue, an indescribable unease washed over us. Yet, we couldn't just overlook it. Jackson and I decided he should talk to our son about it. But from his perspective, she was the woman he had chosen and loved after his own assessment. No matter how desperately we parents tried to explain, it wouldn't be easy for him to believe us. In the end, Jackson's plea was in vain, and Lucas didn't change his mind. Instead, it almost seemed like we were the bad guys when he asked, "Do you dislike her that much?" Since we all lived together, we didn't want the atmosphere to become too hostile. Reluctantly, Jackson and I decided to give up convincing him and not to say anything further. Since then, despite their marriage plans progressing steadily without any particular issues, one day, Lucas invited Natalie over again and started a conversation in front of us. "Mom? Dad? I have something important to discuss today." "Something important? What's going on, Lucas? You're so formal all of a sudden." "Well, actually, I've been thinking about remodeling this house for the future." "Remodeling?" Caught off guard by this unexpected proposal, Jackson and I were momentarily stunned. Regardless of our reaction, Lucas continued. "You and Mom are getting on in years, right? I think it's better for young people like me and Natalie to live together with you. It's safer if something happens, right?" "That might be true, but why live together? Wouldn't it be better if you two stayed in a nearby apartment or something?" Actually, it was Natalie's suggestion. "What?" She said, "I want to live with Jackson and Haley because I'm worried about them. Isn't it great to have such a nice girl as your daughter-in-law? You must be happy, right?" Yeah, I guess so." Still bothered by the recent event, Jackson and I instinctively exchanged glances. Then Natalie, who had been quiet until then, spoke up with teary eyes. "Jackson, Haley, would it be a bother if I stayed with you?" "No, it's not that it's a bother, right, Mom?" Well, yes. We appreciate the thought, but..." "Really? That's great. Then let's get started on the remodeling right away." "Wait, so soon? Isn't that a bit too rushed?" "Lucas and I are getting married soon, you know? We need to start the remodeling as soon as possible to avoid disrupting our lives." With those words, only Lucas nodded happily, as if not hearing our opinions at all, and the conversation kept moving forward. That night, Lucas said, "I'm staying at Natalie's apartment tonight," and left the house. An emergency meeting ensued between my husband and me. Jackson, with a troubled expression, pondered. I appreciate their willingness to live with us, and I think remodeling is a good idea, but yes, indeed. Our house is getting old, and I agree with the remodeling, but it's the living together part that worries me. But like Lucas said, having young people living with us could be reassuring, right? It'd be comforting to have Lucas and his wife around when I have to work late. Yeah, but I was actually thrilled about our son wanting to live with us. However, my only concern was about Natalie. After much discussion, Jackson and I agreed to hear their proposal. In return, we requested that if we were to remodel, the living spaces on the first and second floors be separated. Lucas and his wife readily agreed to our proposal, saying, "We young ones know more about modern houses," and took the lead in all the troublesome planning and design. For us older folks, just thinking about design and layout is a struggle. Despite our apprehensions about Natalie, it was honestly a relief to see our son and his wife eagerly moving forward with the remodeling. But at that time, we didn't know. The real intention behind our children's actions was not just to live together, but something else entirely. It took about a month to finalize the layout and design, and construction started immediately. A full remodel is expensive, and it seems the cost increased even more when they decided to expand the first floor at our children's request. The final cost was quite hefty, but after discussing it with Jackson, we decided to pay the full amount from our savings. The reason was simple. We were touched by our son's thoughtfulness. Lucas, who was supposed to move out after getting married, offered to live with us. For us, it was the greatest act of filial piety and our utmost happiness. And, though it's not something to say out loud, I guess our children assumed the costs were on us. They kept asking, "What's the budget?" So it was probably no mistake. Knowing this, we couldn't bring ourselves to ask them to contribute to the expenses. We didn't want a dispute over the remodeling costs to spoil the decision to live together. Although we had our thoughts, Jackson and I moved on and purely looked forward to the completion. Months later, our home's remodeling was finally complete. Filled with anticipation, Jackson and I hurried back to our house. During the remodeling, we and our children had been living in separate apartments, so living together was just about to start. In the meantime, our son and Natalie had officially married. As we waited in front of the house, the time came for our son and his wife to join us. Our remodeled home looked strikingly beautiful, exciting us beyond our age. We never imagined it would be remodeled so splendidly. It was indeed a great decision to leave it to the younger generation, to Lucas and his wife. Despite my worries about Natalie, our living spaces were separate, so we decided to take it easy and live our lives. Gradually, my anxiety about Natalie faded, my curiosity now captivated by our newly remodeled home. After some small talk, "Shall we go in now?" my son suggested, and finally we stepped inside our home. The entrance had transformed completely, now spacious and clean. Just setting foot inside filled us with emotion. Looking at Jackson, I could see his cheeks relax, unable to hide his joy. But our moment of happiness was quickly overshadowed. After touring the house, we stopped in front of a certain room's door where my son said, "We've prepared a room for you and Mom as well." The door opened to reveal a room about 3 square meters, oddly small and unfitting for our beautiful home. Unable to accept this reality, I managed to ask, albeit stiffly, "Lucas, this is a storage room, right? Stop this weird joke." "Joke? Shouldn't you be grateful? We went out of our way to prepare a room for you and Dad out of our generosity." Generosity? Bewildered, Jackson and I listened as our son calmly made an outrageous statement. Then Natalie chimed in with something even more unbelievable. "Haley, aren't you grateful just to have your son and daughter-in-law living with you?" "Well, I am grateful for that. But to give us just this tiny room? We're going to have children soon. Our family will grow. Isn't it wasteful to give you two such a large room?" "What are you talking about?" The slyly smiling Natalie was undeniably the same woman I saw at the store. It wasn't a mistake. This was her true nature. Speechless, she continued, "If you're going to live together, Please pay the $100,000 remodeling fee. If not, feel free to leave. At that moment, anger surged through me. The kindness my son and daughter-in-law showed in deciding to live with us was not genuine. They just used us to make their living more comfortable and had us pay for the remodeling. My body began to tremble, growing hot with rage. Jackson must have felt the same, shaking with anger though his head was bowed. But Natalie was oblivious to our feelings. With a smug smile, she said, "Not saying anything means you agree to live with us, right? So we're counting on you for the payment." "We won't," I said firmly. "Huh? Did you say something?" "We won't live with you." "Excuse me?" The expressions of my son and his wife froze. I realized the Lucas we had raised with so much love was no longer there. Ignoring their bewildered faces, I continued, "We'll pay for the remodeling of the house, but we won't live with you. You two will have to leave." "What? What are you talking about? So you want me and Natalie to leave, Mom? That's low." "No, that's my line. You two were just using and deceiving us all along." My outburst seemed to shock them, making them flinch. Then, previously silent, Jackson spoke calmly but firmly to our son. "Lucas, I'm sorry, but you and your wife need to leave, as your mother said." "What? Dad, what are you saying? We were going to live together. After all of this effort?" "Shut up! Who do you think you are? This is my house!" Jackson roared with an intensity I'd never seen before. Certainly, it must have been the first time our son saw such fury in Jackson, too. His face turned pale, his earlier bravado gone. Eventually, trembling, our son tried to plead with Jackson. "You're lying, Dad. Remember what you said to me? I will always take responsibility as a parent, no matter what." "And what's your point? Then take responsibility. Thanks to me and my wife, you got to remodel this nice house. I've been so kind, even though we're not blood related. You should pay up and let us stay. That's only fair." Our son took deep breaths on his shoulders and spoke selfish words. Even after all of this, it was clear that he had no remorse. Jackson, who was such a son, must have run out of patience. With a cold glare, he cut him off. "Don't use us only when it's convenient for you. You're no longer my son." "What? What did you say?" "A person who only thinks about their own benefits and money. A despicable person like that is not our son. And who owns this house anyway, huh? Even those remodeling papers you brought. I signed them without knowing the details. I'll pay for the remodeling, but you have no right to live here. Get out now, you scumbags." With that, Jackson forcefully pulled them by the arms towards the entrance and threw them out the door. What happened to our son and his wife afterward is obvious. The house was in Jackson's name, a fact that wouldn't change, no matter how much they protested. Apparently, they hadn't expected us to refuse to live with them and had already spent their savings. When trying to contract a new apartment, they had to borrow from a loan shark to make ends meet. With Natalie having quit her job, their life quickly plummeted to rock bottom. They would likely struggle with debt for a while. Remodeled home, the infamous room became a storage room, and we freely used the rest of the spacious house. Considering how to make the best use of all the space, we got news of David's transfer to the headquarters within commuting distance. We decided to live together, proving that blood relation isn't everything. I believed that and treated Lucas accordingly, but a relationship based only on exploitation is not worth keeping. It's better to cut ties. From now on, we want to live a happy life with our one true son who truly cares about us.